Imagine you live in a remote, isolated island, and throughout this land, you only have 2 neighbors. Ideal, right? What if you hate the neighbors so much that living on the island becomes intolerable, and the situation devolves into 4 mysterious disappearances? That's exactly what happened in the island of Floriana in the early 1900s. Known famously as the Galapagos Incident, or the Galapagos Affair, the story has been widely narrated, argued, and disputed. In 2025, Ron Howard adapted the incident into a movie with a star-studded cast of Jude Law, Daniel Bruhl, Vanessa Kirby, Ana de Armas, and Sydney Sweeney. Let's explore the ending of the movie, but not before you tap on that subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for supporting us. Let's start. A philosopher's peace disturbed. In 1929, the economy was collapsing as the after effect of the First World War. Fascism was spreading, and Dr. Friedrich Ritter fled Germany with his mistress, Doris Strauch, for Floriana, an uninhabited island in the Galapagos archipelago. Dr. Ritter's life was popularized by his letters, which were picked up by passing ships and published in newspapers. Dr. Ritter was a man on a mission. He was there to come up with a radical philosophy that would save mankind from itself. He was so dedicated to this mission that he plucked his teeth out to prevent infection. Dore believed in his mission, and through his guidance was finding relief from her multiple sclerosis. They lived a peaceful life, meditating, writing, and farming with a strictly vegetarian diet. While Ritter worked on his manuscript, Dore had the company of her donkey, whom she loved most dearly. Inspired by his letters, fellow Germans Heinz and Margaret Whitmer arrived there with Heinz's son Harry in 1932. Harry had been suffering from tuberculosis, and Heinz had not been able to afford the 2 years asylum stay recommended by his doctors. Friedrich and Dore were not happy about their peace being disturbed, and to make sure they didn't interfere with his schedule, Friedrich had them set up in a cave at the top of a mountain, with a tiny freshwater spring. Friedrich was sure that as the rocky terrain of the mountain was hard to farm in, they would soon give up and leave. Margaret and Heinz worked extremely hard, tilling the tough terrain and battling the flies and mosquitoes at night. Unfortunately, wild dogs attacked their canned food supplies and ate up most of it. Despite all these hardships, they sustained themselves, made a hut, and cultivated a farm. Margaret also found out that she was pregnant. The self-proclaimed Baroness Eloise Bosquet de Wagner-Verhorn soon arrived with grand plans of making an exclusive hotel for millionaires. She was accompanied by her manservant Manuel, her 2 lovers Robert and Rudolph, who were also her bodyguard and engineer respectively. The Baroness introduced herself to Ritter, and he led her to the same freshwater spring he had shown the Whitmers. When Eloise began frolicking in the water pond with her lovers, Heinz put a stop to it and asked her not to pollute their water source. Eloise apologized and introduced herself as their new neighbor. With her usual charm, she asked Heinz to give some letters Ritter had received from the mainland.
Drawn like a hunchback.
Are there more of these?
Why, yes, plenty.
Beginning of a conflict. When Heinz handed over the letters, Ritter angrily demanded an explanation as to why he invaded his privacy by opening them. Heinz truthfully told him that Eloise had given them to him. Dore explained that Eloise was trying to start a fight through her actions. When Heinz confronted her about it, she told him that Ritter too was trying to get rid of them, as he led her to the Whitmers' water spring instead of sharing his own. She remarked that by the end of the year, one of them would surely leave, and she hoped it was not the Whitmers. Meanwhile, Margaret had progressed in her pregnancy, and she asked Ritter whether he would deliver her baby, as he was a doctor. Ritter scoffed at her request and asked her why she was having a baby. Margaret answered that it was because family meant everything to her, and that is what society deemed as well. Ritter scoffed at that too, and after calling them sheep for following social norms, told her that there was a 3 out of 5 chance that she would have a good delivery without him. Ritter had started growing jealous of the Whitmers by this time, as his own garden was invaded by a wild pig, and the Whitmers had a bountiful harvest. He blamed Dore for not working hard enough and her disability for their lack of success. Trouble brewed in Thruple Paradise as well, when Robert discovered that their food supplies were empty. Rudolph was angry about their lack of progress and blamed the lies Eloise was telling them. Eloise retreated into the woods to think about everything when she ran into Harry. Eloise quickly bonded with Harry, and he shared the fact that they had a lot of canned items remaining in their house. Eloise sent Manuel and Robert to rob the Whitmers after Harry and Heinz left to hunt. As luck would have it, Margaret realized at that moment that she was going to have the baby right then. She called out for help from Eloise or any of her men, but they ignored her and quietly snuck away with their food. Manuel gave all the canned goods to Eloise and told her that they needed to help Margaret or she would die. Eloise strictly forbade it, saying that they worked for her and not Margaret. Manuel was in disbelief of her humanity and left immediately. As Margaret had the baby, wild dogs began attacking her. Thankfully, her husband appeared just in time to save her. Her baby, Rolf, became the first human to be born in Floriana. Eloise later visited the Whitmers and gave them a tin of their own canned food as a gift. She told them that though she had not robbed them, her manservant had, and he had been fired for his crime. In honor of their baby, Eloise hosted a luncheon, inviting Dr. Ritter, Dore, and the Whitmers. Eloise and Dore provoked each other, with Dore commenting on Eloise's 2 lovers, and Eloise pointing out that Dore only loved her donkey because she could not have children. Ritter claimed that a quack doctor had removed Dore's uterus, and an argument broke out between Dore, Ritter, and Eloise. As tension reached their height, Eloise revealed that she had been granted 40,000 acres by the Ecuadorian government to build her resort. The luncheon abruptly ended with everyone feeling unhappy and angry about their neighbor. Last resorts and changing behaviors. By this time, Ritter had been feeling more and more desperate. Their gardens were not giving out enough harvest, and he was desperate for food. He had also dialed back on his vegetarianism, eating meat wherever he found some. So when American industrialist Alan Hancock arrived on the islands with tons of canned food, Ritter hugged him in disbelief. Hancock shot a few scenes of the island for his documentary and hosted a dinner for the families there. Learning that he had connections in Hollywood, Eloise started up her charms and tried to seduce him. Ritter was scared that Hancock would fall into Eloise's seductive trap and give her all the food, so he stole all the food he had brought. Ritter, however, was wrong, as Hancock laughed off all of Eloise's attempts and left. Rudolph decided to leave with Hancock, but Eloise wouldn't have it, and had Robert beat him up. Rudolph sought shelter in the Whitmer's cottage, but went to Eloise again when she called for him. Eloise promised to let Rudolph go if he set Dore's donkey free in the Whitmer's garden that night. As she had hoped, Heinz heard the donkey eating their food, and he shot it with a gun. It was only when he investigated what he shot that he realized it was Dore's most prized possession. The next day, Dore was distraught and her limp returned. Rudolph confessed to both Heinz and Ritter what had happened, and Ritter decided enough was enough. Rudolph, Heinz, and Ritter confronted Eloise and Robert. Robert lunged at them immediately, and Heinz stabbed him to death. Eloise began her spiel again, telling them that Robert was abusive and she was glad he was gone. As a reward, she offered them equal stakes in the hotel. Before she could continue, Ritter shot her. Later, the trio threw both of their bodies into the ocean. The next day, Rudolph announced that Robert and Eloise had left for Tahiti and he was selling their belongings. With what money he got from the sale, Rudolph left. When Margaret remarked that she hadn't seen any ship arrive or leave, Heinz and Ritter both commented that they too had not seen any ship. This ignited a doubt in Heinz as to why Ritter's was not admitting to their alibi. Margaret, who had correctly deduced that Eloise was killed, made another accurate guess. Ritter was planning to frame Heinz for the double murder. True to point, he had already sent a letter to the authorities accusing Heinz. It was up to Margaret to do damage control. Ritter and Dore were having troubles in their relationships, with both blaming the other for their lack of progress. Dore believed that Ritter had turned his back on philosophy and was turning savage, while Ritter believed that Dore was not listening to him. During one of their arguments, Ritter forcefully pulled Dore's infected tooth with a garden tool. Margaret saw that the iron was hot to strike and struck up a conversation with Dore. She told her that if the Whitmers left, Dore would be alone with him again and left to suffer his changing moods. She also then conveniently mentioned that if a chicken was spoiled, the toxins could not be boiled away. Dore then fed Ritter spoiled chicken and gave him a nasty case of food poisoning. With no doctors or antibiotics nearby, Ritter died a painful death. With his last breath, he cursed Dore. Days later, the Ecuadorian authorities arrived to question Heinz about the murders. When Margaret heard that Dore had accused Heinz as well, she accused Dore of murdering Dr. Ritter. With conflicting accounts and no evidence, the authorities were forced to drop their investigation. Dore left with the authorities and returned to Germany, while the Whitmers insisted on staying there. In the ending titles, we learned that Rudolph never really made it out of the island, as the ship he had boarded was caught in a storm that caused his death. Dore published a memoir of her account of events and passed away from multiple sclerosis in 1943. The Whitmers had a successful ending, as they made a fortune running a hotel in Floriana. How accurate is Eden? As we previously mentioned, the movie is based on the true incidents that took place in Floriana. Most of the incidents are true. The Whitmers and Ritter genuinely hated the Baroness for her eccentric behavior, and Margaret did deliver Rolf alone in a cave. But as is the case of many movies, the truth is a bit embellished. There are no accounts of the Baroness sabotaging the gardens of her neighbors, nor is there any account of her orchestrating the burglary of the Whitmers. This could be an artistic choice by the filmmakers to paint her as the obvious villain in Floriana. The movie establishes that Heinz, Ritter, and Rudolph killed Eloise and Robert, but in reality, there's no evidence to substantiate this either. The most famous theory floated around was that Rudolph was the sole perpetrator of the murders, and he burnt the bodies before leaving Floriana. It was also a well-known fact in Floriana that Rudolph was abused by Eloise and Robert, which could be the motivating factor. There are conflicting theories and facts when it comes to the death of Ritter as well. While the official reason is food poisoning brought about by bad chicken, whether it was an honest mistake or a nefarious murder remains unknown. Dore claims the latter, and even wrote in her memoir that Ritter loved her till the last breath. Margaret Whitmer claims the opposite, and is seen in the movie almost steering Dore towards murdering Ritter. In reality, however, she might have just been a bystander to the events, as there were rumors of Ritter having an affair with the Baroness. Eden ends with solid facts again, as Ritter did accuse Heinz Whitmer of the murder, and Margaret then accused Dore of Ritter's murder. Either way, you have to admit that Floriana became the setting to an intriguing couple of years in history. Marvelous verdict. With beautiful visuals and music by Hans Zimmer, Eden is not a movie you would want to miss. The plot is gripping and entertaining and has a dark atmosphere due to the story being based off of real life. What did you like most about Eden? Let us know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, please do let us know by tapping on that thumbs up. We'll soon be back with more awesome stuff, but until then, take care, goodbye!